I never thought it would come to this. I never imagined I'd be the kind of person who would betray the man who gave me everything: his heart, his trust, his love. But here I am, telling my story, drenched in regret and shame. It all started when I went back to the office after the lockdown. Before that, my husband and I had shared such a wonderful life together. We laughed, we shared hobbies, we spent time together. But once we were forced to work from home during the lockdown, something shifted. We were close, too close, and yet so far apart. The silence between us was deafening, and before I even realized it, resentment was building inside me. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it was just a phase. We spent all day together, but we were growing distant. He shut himself in his office for hours, and I felt invisible, like I wasn't even there. He seemed content with the routine, but I felt suffocated by it. When the office reopened, it felt like freedom. I was able to step out of the house, be around people who saw me, really saw me, and not just as someone stuck in the same cycle. That's where it all began. The group of women I got close to at work, especially two of them, planted seeds of doubt in my mind. They had gone through divorces, and they constantly told me that I deserved more. They psychoanalyzed my life, my marriage, my husband. They fed me lines about how I needed someone who could challenge me, someone who wasn't intimidated by my success. Then there was him, my boss. He was charming, confident, and attentive in ways I hadn't experienced in years. At first, it was innocent. A smile, a compliment, harmless chats after work. But soon, those conversations turned into something more, something dangerous. I didn't plan on having an affair. I never woke up one morning and thought, I'm going to destroy my marriage today. But there's a thin line between temptation and surrender, and I crossed it. I never forget that day. I was in a hotel room just across the street from work. We sneaked in like criminals. The air was thick with anticipation as soon as the door clicked shut behind us. The room was dimly lit, casting long shadows across the walls, but all I could focus on was him. His eyes locked with mine, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. Without a word, he crossed the space between us, his hands gently cupping my face, before his lips met mine in a slow, deliberate kiss. It wasn't rushed or frantic, but full of an intensity that made my knees weaken. The electricity between us was undeniable, and as he deepened the kiss, I felt every bit of the weight of what we were doing. Yet I couldn't pull away. His hands slid down my sides, grazing my skin as he moved closer, his body pressing against mine. I felt the heat of him, every breath he took, matched by my own rapid pulse. We tumbled onto the bed, a tangle of limbs and unspoken desire, the world outside fading into nothingness. His touch was both urgent and tender, as though he was savoring every second, every inch of me. My mind fought to grasp the enormity of what was happening, but my body had already surrendered. Each touch, each whisper of his breath against my skin was a reminder of how starved I have been for this kind of passion, this kind of connection. As we moved together, everything else ceased to matter. There was no guilt, no second thoughts, just the raw, unfiltered emotion of the moment. His lips traced a path down my neck, across my collarbone, and I arced beneath him, lost in the sensation. It was a dance of need and release, a fleeting escape from reality, and for those stolen moments, I forgot about the consequences. All I knew was that I wanted him, and he wanted me. We gave in to the undeniable force that had been building between us for so long. It was reckless, it was wrong, but in that hotel room, it was everything. I continued seeing him behind my husband's back. At first, it felt thrilling, a secret world where I was desired, where I wasn't just a wife or an employee, but a woman with passion and excitement. I justified it, telling myself that my husband had emotionally checked out long before I did. I convinced myself that what I was doing wasn't wrong because I wasn't happy. But with each encounter, the guilt gnawed at me. I would come home and look at my husband, knowing I was betraying him, yet unable to stop. He had no idea, no clue what was happening. His love for me remained unchanged, and that made it worse. I was unfaithful, and I knew it. Then, it all came crashing down. I had been careless, leaving my old iPad lying around, thinking he wouldn't check. But he did. He found everything, the messages, the photos, the lies I had woven. I can still picture the look on his face, the hurt in his eyes when he finally confronted me. It was like someone had torn his soul apart. He didn't explode right away. In fact, that almost made it worse. He was calm, too calm. He told me he had seen everything, but he didn't yell. His silence was deafening. I felt small, like I was shrinking into nothing. But when he finally snapped, it was like a storm had been unleashed. He shouted, cursed, called me every name under the sun, and I deserved every word. I had broken him. I had taken our marriage, our vows, and shattered them into a million pieces. He told me he had hired a lawyer, that he was going to divorce me. And the worst part, I laughed. I didn't mean to, but I did. I was so wrapped up in my delusion, so lost in the lies I had been telling myself, that I couldn't take him seriously. I said things I regret, terrible things, that I get half his paycheck, that he should just stick with me for the sex, because that's all he'd get from anyone. I was cruel, heartless. I didn't even recognize myself. Then came the cake, the humiliating public serving of the divorce papers at work. He had an image of me and my boss printed on a cake, and those haunting words, "Here's your cake, eat it too." The moment I saw it, I felt like the ground beneath me had crumbled. My co-workers, my boss, they all saw it. My world, which I had built on lies, collapsed in front of me. I lashed out, swatted the cake to the ground, but it was too late. The damage was done. I could hear the whispers, feel the stares of judgment from everyone around me. The humiliation was unbearable. I wanted to disappear, to run away from the wreckage I had caused. Now I'm left picking up the pieces. My husband, the man I betrayed, is moving forward with the divorce. I can't undo what I have done, no matter how much I wish I could. I've lost him. I've lost everything. The romance I chased was fleeting, a mirage, and now all I'm left with is regret. Heavy, suffocating regret. And the worst part, I miss him. I miss the man I used to love, the man I threw away for a moment of weakness. If I could go back, I would, but it's too late. He's gone, and I'm left with the mess I've made, wondering if I'll ever feel whole again.